we start with every
Hey,
day.
everyone out there rambling about Racing Nation. Matt Beamer here alongside the crew, Charlie Hercus and Austin Reeves, as well as Preston Lood, fresh from his trip to the Darlington Speedway there in South Carolina. Got a lot to cover this week in Southern 500, first race in the NASCAR playoffs, the Xfinity race from Darlington, as well as the Formula One race from the Netherlands. Let's get into it. This is a production of ITM Media. Yes, an interesting full weekend of racing here from the Darlington Speedway at South Carolina, as well as the Netherlands for Formula One. A lot of racing coming up this weekend as well. Hello, everyone, again. Matt Beamer here alongside the crew, Preston Lood, Charlie Hercus, and Austin Reeves, bringing you the latest and greatest from this weekend's races, as well as previewing next weekend's races for NASCAR and Formula One, as well as Indy Car here. But first things first, gentlemen, how is it going? We're going to start off with Preston since he went up to the Darlington Motor Speedway this past weekend. It was my first time in 3 years not making it to Darlington for the race, and I'm pretty bummed out about that. But Preston, how was your experience up there in Darlington?
Oh, it was great as always. We pulled up to the track, and I'm pretty sure I texted you guys right away as soon as we pulled up and parked. The bottom fell out of the sky. And that was it rained for a solid, probably an hour, I think. And it rained for about 15 or 20 minutes, and we decided that we were gonna go walk around and see what there was to do, and then come back and then set everything up in the parking lot. And so the rain started to lighten up, and I was like, all right, cool. I had my rain jacket with me, whatever. So the rain started to light up, and as we walked closer to the track, then it just started to rain even harder again. So it was fun, awful at the same time, because you know how it goes, Matt. In South Carolina, it rains, and then the sun comes back out, and it's hotter than Hades outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It gets awful. So
it's miserable, 100%.
Other than that, it's great. I mean, I haven't seen that many people at a race, and I don't even know. It's probably been at least 10 years since I've seen that. I mean, it was crowded. It was packed.
Yeah, it looked from TV, man. It was a good show, and I regret not showing up there to the racetrack, but I did the math here. And what time did you end up getting back home to your house?
I think it was about 2:30 a.m. I mean, we stayed the entire race, and as soon as checkered flag fell, we walked down as fast as we could and walked out to the parking lot, and we were in the car, and we were out of there in like 10 minutes. I mean, it was crazy how fast it was.
Yeah. I did the math, and I would have been home probably about 2:00, and I had work the next day. I had work that Monday or yesterday, and so I'm glad I didn't go. I'm glad I shut off the TV, went upstairs, went to bed. It was nice. It was nice and bad at the same time. Glad you had fun. We can't wait to hear more about it. Charlie, you just got done with surgery there, man. How'd that go? And
yeah,
how's that going?
Kind of made the show a little late start time tonight. Waiting on me to get home, get started, and whatnot. So. Second time going into my hand this year due to that car accident late April of this year. But last time I had surgery, I wound up winning a race. So there's only one race left in the year. So, hey,
buddy.
Hey, you never know what's going to happen here. So
will Austin be racing?
See.
Will Austin be racing?
I don't think so, being that the babies were born.
Okay.
And Matthew texted me yesterday and also said that he's going to try and run the last race as well. So I think everything will probably be back to normal as far as normal operations on the 83 and the 28 and whatnot. So we'll see. Went and picked up parts and whatnot for my car Sunday afternoon from my little spin that I'm still not happy about, backing it into the wall. It's been a long time since I've really tore my car up that wasn't purposely because of my doings, I guess. I've tore it up, but it's been stuff that been, hey, y'all just go ahead and get ready because I'm going to tear this thing up. So anyway, different story, different time. But Other than that, yeah, surgery today went good. I already have more mobility back in this hand than what I had going into the surgery. So, I think that went pretty good. Jump right into physical therapy tomorrow. So we'll see how all that goes. A lot of stuff going on the, career side of stuff. So, that's still up in the air on what's going to happen on all that. So, a lot of stuff going on, but we'll see. I think things are going to work out in my favor and maybe the way I want them to work out in the long run. So I'm keeping a positive attitude about it all for sure.
If you were a fighter pilot in the Navy or whatever, your call sign would be roller coaster, I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It would be whirlwind.
Based on, I've known you since 2008, and
or tumbleweed. What is it? Tumbleweed.
A tumbleweed. Yeah, it might be tornado, hurricane.
Yeah, it would definitely be hurricane.
Well, I'm glad you're doing well, man. Glad the surgery went well. Can't wait to hear all about it and catch up with it more, especially on your, what's it called, the career side of it at Talladega. Austin, how are things going with the babies? Based on the Facebook post, everything's going well. How's your wife doing? How's everything going over there for you?
Yeah, the wife's going good. No, I'm talking about. I just kidding. Go ahead.
She's doing good. We got home Saturday about 2:00. She's up, walking around, starting to get more mobile. She's doing pretty good. The kids are doing good. They every time they call us with updates, is nothing but good news. They're off the CPAP thing they had them on, so it just each and every day they're getting better and better. She actually went Sunday and she got to hold them. I didn't go because I had to wash clothes and get stuff ready for work this week. But she was tickled. She got to hold both of them, so everything's going good up here.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Definitely been praying for you and your wife with that whole situation there, and can't wait for you to bring them home. And that's definitely when I think the parenting starts. You have no help with the nursing staff and the doctor staff. It's all just you. But glad everything's going well for you guys. Hoping that everything's going well out there. Oh, that's a good picture of him.
Charlie took that.
Oh, what was he doing at the hospital?
Well, somebody had to fill in the husband role since Austin wasn't there.
Oh, that's just up, man. Well, I hope everything's going well out there, whether you're listening to us on your regular podcast platform or joining us live tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. Really do appreciate it. And we have from 1 year ago, I met this guy, Tracy. Hope he's doing well there with his daughter and everything's going well there. I wonder if Tracy, just answer if you can. Did you make it to Darlington or not? Let us know what you thought of the race, because it was an interesting one. But we're going to start off with the Xfinity Series race. I didn't get to watch it due to unfortunate circumstances, which I might talk about next episode here. But the Xfinity race, you guys were just texting on the group text all about it. It sounded like a good race. That was about the Xfinity race, because for someone like me who didn't watch it, recap it. Go.
So throughout the race was pretty much great racing, I thought. Yes, unfortunately, a lot of Cup Series drivers in it, but they're really, up until the end, there were no Cup Series drivers competing for a win throughout this race. I mean, it was Xfinity drivers really competing for the win throughout this race. So that's what really made this a good race. Like the Cup Series drivers were struggling. And somebody's got a lot of feedback too. So anyway, definitely Preston. Because he just muted his mic too, I think. So anyway, but they up until Kyle Larson there for maybe the last 15, 20 laps maybe.
Yeah.
It was always a good race. Larson made his way back to the front there at the end, and yes, he competed for a win. But man, it as much as you hate to see a Cup Series driver at the front in the Xfinity Series, that was a great race. That was just as an exciting finish as what you could hope for in motorsports, regardless of it, whether it be F1, IMSA, Legends. It doesn't matter. If you weren't happy about that finish, then there's just nothing that's going to get you excited about motorsports, period. In my opinion.
It sounded like after the race, though, Noah Gragson, a lot of people were questioning his health and fitness.
Oh, yeah, I was. I 100% was. I was like, man, he's one of the few that don't wear a cool suit. Like, a lot of these drivers wear cool suits and stuff. No, Noah does not, if I'm not mistaken. At least it didn't look. At least it doesn't look like it, because usually you can see the cool suits up underneath it. I don't think he had one on, so
that has something to do with it. And he gets, like, when he's battling for position, he doesn't breathe. He quits breathing, so that has a lot to do with it too.
I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
Do a lot of health.
He starts white knuckling it.
He does.
Yeah, absolutely.
You go from not breathing for 2 laps and you start catching your breath and drinking water, it ain't going to be good.
Yeah. So it was a great race. It really was.
It sounded like a great race. I'm bummed that I missed it. I could have caught the highlights, but I was just in a whole nother world Saturday. And
yeah, you had a long Saturday.
And we'll talk about that later on in the episode here. But the Southern 500, we're going to start off with Preston here, or we're going to start off with Preston since he was there. First of all, how did the next Gen cars, the Gen 7 cars, sound on the track compared to last year's Gen 6 cars? Because we're going to Talladega here at the end of this month. Get to hear the cars on track for the first time, but you heard them unrestricted at Darlington. How'd they sound compared to last year? Did they sound better? Did they sound worse? Please say they sounded good.
They sound great. They sound fine. I mean, it sounded, honestly, I would have to say it might sound a little bit louder than it has been in the past. I mean, I think they sound fine. There's really not really much of a difference. They sound great. I think it was overall. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of some things in terms of the Gen 7 car in general, but I mean, I thought it was great. Sounds great. Everything. Now, I mean, of course, there was other problems in that race, like engine problems and stuff like that for a lot of cats, but.
There were a lot of engine problems here, and the two in particular were probably Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch.
Yep.
Yeah, which Martin Truex Jr. didn't necessarily have an engine problem as he did belts come off, overheated.
But that's connected to the engine, so we're going to just classify that.
But I mean, Kyle Larson had some seemed like engine problems too, and I mean, he went from 3 laps down to. Coming back.
That's more like an electrical.
I mean, good on him. But let's talk about that real quick. The engine issues, especially with Joe Gibbs Racing, not the best start to the playoffs. Luckily for Joe Gibbs Racing, it isn't a single elimination where somebody gets knocked out in the first round. They wait till round 3, and then that's the conclusion of the first, I guess, total round. So they have a chance to rebound, especially at Kansas coming up here. And then you go to Bristol, which is the track you don't want to race your way in. You don't want to do that. But, man, I mean, Tracy brought this up too. Everybody, it seems like a lot of chase drivers or playoff drivers had problems. Chase Elliott had an issue. I'm just going to go down to the bottom list. Chase Elliott had an issue. Kevin Harvick had that weird fire.
Yeah, that was very weird.
Yeah, so they've already made changes on that. Towards that, I'll read that off in just a little bit.
Which, ironically enough, if I was photographing, that was where I was at. I would have gotten good pictures of that for everybody, but I didn't go this year.
I got a question for Preston. Did they wait that long to throw the caution flag out when he caught on fire?
Yes,
that was a long time.
On the radio broadcast, when I was listening to the race on the radio broadcast, they had called it out that he was already on fire coming out of 4, and everybody looked, and here he comes down the front stretch, and you could see and the wheels is glowing in the wheels, and as he was coming by in front of me, the flames were getting, it was more, and I was like looking, I'm like, where's the caution going to come out? And he drives into 1 on the apron and stops the car. No cautions. Getting out of the car, still no caution. And everybody at the track was throwing their hands in there like, what?
And he's obviously slowing. he's obviously slowing down at this point. So it's like he's making an effort to stop. He can't see like where's the caution at. Like
that's what I was looking at.
And you know this guy that's throwing the caution, like he's had a hair trigger all year long on that caution. We've seen it multiple times. Like, so where's it at? Like, if his reaction time would be zeros if he was drag racing. But it wasn't this time.
Don't worry. We were everybody.
He lost that round. Buybacks are at the tower.
Everybody was wondering about that, but that wasn't the only problem. The other issue about the caution was at the start of the race, because it was starting to spit rain under the pace laps, at least in turn 1, and it was visible. And they threw the green flag and they raced for, I don't know, 5 or 6 laps before the caution came out. But I mean, there was a dark cloud right over turn 1. I mean, it was coming right over us. And it started to rain even harder as the race was going on. And everybody, again, throwing their hands up like, where the hell's the caution at? They're going to throw the caution anytime soon. And I'm looking down towards the front stretch, and I can see the rain behind the stands falling. And I'm like, hello. And they finally threw the caution. I'm just looking around. Everyone's like, what the hell's going on here? You know, like, what's going on?
Well, we've seen this a time or two, and I think Bristol or Darlington really brought it out into the light now. There has to be some type of what's the word here? Maybe some type of standard that NASCAR has to go through. I mean, we've seen phantom debris cautions a lot in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When a car is on fire, that should be an automatic caution. Everybody get out of his way.
I think that's happened before. I'm pretty sure in past we have seen cars on fire and they throw the caution right away because they always like to say, well, he could be leaking any kind of fluid on the track. I mean, Harvick wasn't
especially if he's already past the entrance of pit road.
Yeah. I mean, he was still in the racing line at the time when he was still pulling off, but I mean, you're still dropping if you're dropping fluid down the front stretch. And
that's a heck of a cleanup issue. But
I think, and like he said, I think the reason why the fire got a real big is, and another reason why it took him so long to stop is because he had done burnt through the right front brake line. Brake fluid caught on fire. So now at this point, all he's really using is rear brakes. So taking 3 times as long to stop because, let's face it, you're not using the majority of rear brakes. So you're trying to slow this car down solely off of rear brakes. And I mean, it's just things are just escalating at this point.
It all happened so fast. I heard safety crews didn't even know that he had even gotten out of the car because he had exited the car so fast.
Right, and that becomes a safety issue.
It does.
And I've been on fire personally, and you like I hadn't been on fire in a race car, but I've been on fire like period. And if I'm inside a race car and it's on fire, I'm coming out of it real quick because
you don't get no hurry getting out of the car. You're gonna burn.
If I'm on fire, I bet I will.
I don't know.
But I mean,
I came out of that car the last race pretty quick because I was mad. But I was wanting to talk to somebody.
But in seeing Kevin Harvick on fire get out of the car, which I'm glad he did, the safety crews responded well, but only after the caution flew. But if the caution would have flown
sooner,
let's say when he was, when a little fire on the car is not uncommon. We've all seen it before where something's caught on fire and it's quickly gone out, especially on pit road. You get up to speed, it blows out.
Yeah. But
this one had a sustainable fuel source, a sustainable ignition source, and it was on fire. Clearly, it was coming through the cockpit, and then your view is obstructed due to the smoke, and on top of that, you could breathe in some of that smoke, which could cause another issue if you're not careful. But in seeing that, I'm surprised that it did take so long for NASCAR to throw the caution. I wish they would have done it sooner, at least at the start-finish line, throw the caution, because then if Harvick got out and then there was fluid and somebody hit the fluid and spun into it, I mean, we're just talking about worst-case scenario here. Thank God that didn't happen. But it could have. I mean, if the situations were right and the stars aligned. But, I think NASCAR dodged a bullet right there. I think they'll learn from that and move on. I think they're still having to deal with the rain issue. I was listening to the spotters and they were talking about rain already 3 laps in. It's like, throw the caution. If it's raining, throw the caution. And NASCAR monitors this radio chatter of the teams. If somebody's saying rain, hey, we learned at Daytona, we learned at Coda, we learned everywhere that rain could be an issue. Stop the race.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or put it on the caution at least. But just a lot of stuff. But going back to this, a lot of playoff drivers got into issues. Chase Elliott wrecked out, damaged vehicle policy. Even with the 10-minute damaged vehicle policy, he still couldn't make minimum speed.
They're going to have to address that toe length thing.
Didn't even make his thing wasn't even just the toe links, though. He had bent upper and lower control arms. So it wasn't just a toe link thing on his. So just couldn't even repair all that in 10 minutes.
But then
he's done.
Kevin Harvick is out. Martin Truex was out due to the water pump, which is an engine issue, I guess you could say, technically.
Well, yeah, belts come off.
Kyle Busch, engine issue under the pace lap, leading the race.
Blew up under the pace laps while leading the race.
Oh, let me tell you what. If you want to hear anybody cheer loud, that's when it happened.
Which is what I hate. And I was over at Jeff and Carissa's watching the race, which is what I hate because, this year alone, I've kind of grew more fond of Kyle Busch.
Right. Yeah.
Just because of the whole contract stuff. And I'm like, so you've re-upped Martin Truex, but you hadn't re-upped the one guy that's gotten you two championships. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what's the issue? And I get there's some back and forth. There's got to be some give and take on both ends. But, I mean, come on. I don't know. I've slowly become a little bit more of a Kyle Busch fan, but he's definitely mellowed out in his older age, I guess. So I hate it for him because, honestly, I was pulling for him to kind of win that race. I wanted Truex to win it, but I was pulling for – if Truex didn't win it, I was hoping for Busch to pull it out. But, man, to blow up under caution, that sucks.
That's a kick in the gut right there.
Yeah, it is.
Chase Briscoe also had problems, finished 27th. Ross Chastain finished 20th. Daniel Hemrick, 18th. Austin Dillon, 17th. Austin Cindric, 16th. Ryan Blaney, up and down day for him, had finished 13th. Kyle Larson finished 12th. A good rebound from him, though. With
absolutely. Being 3 laps down at one point.
William Byron, 8th. Chris Bell, top 5, Logano, Reddick, Hamlin, and your winner, a non-playoff driver, Eric Jones, in his second Southern 500 victory. Yeah, gentlemen, it was
stop you right there.
Okay, go ahead. I know where you're going with this.
Yep. So super proud of Eric Jones, and petty this, petty that. Petty needs to go on somewhere. Petty don't even own the majority of that freaking business. If I'm not mistaken, GMS owns the majority of this Petty GMS crap. Petty, the name, is what might bring in some of the sponsors and stuff. But give me a freaking break, man. The 43 number didn't win that race. Eric Jones won that race. So quit talking about the last time the 43 won anything at Darlington was so many years ago. Who gives a shit? Nobody.
Yeah, that's
Eric Jones. Absolutely. Eric Jones won the race. Talk about Eric Jones winning the race. Talk about his career. Talk about what he's done for Petty GMS this year. And talk about the momentum that maybe he's brought to the organization. Talk about what GMS coming to Petty has brought for Petty Enterprises. It's not just Petty. It's GMS and it's Eric Jones. Richard ain't got crap to do with it. Because like I said, I don't even think I truly, if I'm not mistaken, he's not even majority owner of any of that anymore. So it's just that Petty name, and I'm tired of hearing it. I really am.
It kind of reminded me of when Austin Dillon won the Daytona 500.
God, yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was all about Dale Earnhardt. Oh,
well, and that's also Austin Dillon's fault, because Austin Dillon got out there after he won the 500. He's like, well, yeah, some kid somebody gave me something before the race, and I stuck it in the car. And I'm like, really?
It was a penny. It was a penny.
Yeah, I'm like, really? So you're gonna play this card? Why don't you take your little cowboy hat that you like to do and go get the role for Brokeback Mountain 2? Because nobody wants you in NASCAR.
Way worse than that.
If you want to do some TV stuff and reality stuff, you can go get the role for Brokeback Mountain 2 if they ever come out with it. Because nobody likes you. Yeah. Nobody wants you in NASCAR, period.
Yeah.
Charlie Hercus for president, 2024.
You know what? I have not met.
Yeah, I'm on my freaking soapbox now, son. I got my chest bowed out.
Yeah, but I mean, you were right about that. They did mention a lot about Richard Petty and doing not 70 something, maybe about, I think, 50 something years since.
It was 50 years ago.
Petty was in
55, something like that. Yeah. To the day. Okay. Nope. Nobody gives a crap.
But that always seems to happen. I feel like in sports in general, they always have to tie it back to on this date so years ago, the 40, like you said, the 43 won this many years ago. I don't know.
Well, I guess. Like that. Yeah. Well, maybe if Richard Petty was driving this car, maybe it'd have more wins. No, it wouldn't. Okay, let's face it. He retired a long time ago. Eric Jones is driving this car.
It's true. The last winner of that race the winner in that car was Eric Almirola in Daytona when it got rained out a couple of years ago.
I was a huge senior fan. I really was a huge Earnhardt senior fan. But we don't have to tie everything with the 3 car back to him.
Earnhardt. Yeah, we don't.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. I really am. I get where the history of NASCAR, and I know we're going down a rabbit hole a little bit. That's fine. We're only 27 minutes into the podcast, whatever. So, but I get where the past of NASCAR is just that, and what's led up to nowadays. It is great and all, but we don't always have to tie it up or tie it back. Well, that's what led up to this. Okay, well that's great and all. We talk about that plenty of times, but let's talk about the now. Let's talk about the fact that Eric Jones won this race. Eric Jones held off Denny Hamlin, and sure, could Denny Hamlin have probably laid the bumper to him and wrecked him? Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
And Denny Hamlin's already made the statement. He said, look, Eric Jones has never raced any of us like that. I wasn't going to race him like that. So, and as bad as I hate to say it, I'll respect Denny Hamlin a little bit for saying that. So, because he definitely could. Denny Hamlin could have sent it in there one corner and pulled a Logano on B.U.R.N.
And so I feel like that wouldn't have been such a bad thing, because if I was Hamlin, I would have rather secured my position not at Bristol or Kansas, but there at Darlington, along with anybody else who was racing. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. would have rather secured their spot into the next round that day. But
what if you would have junked it, though?
But we'll never know. We'll never know.
But then at the same time, you'd have been pissed off a non-playoff driver, and
he's going to wait to get back when it counts.
You done made it to the next round, but you ain't making it to the round of 8.
But that's not guaranteed, though. That is 100% not guaranteed.
It's not okay.
But that's not guaranteed either way.
It has been a number of years for me to see all these drivers talk a bunch of smack, and the only one who has backed up any type of talk is Matt Kenseth against Logano at Martinsville a few years ago. Other than that, I have never seen a driver purposely wreck someone like that in the playoffs. Or
Matt Kenseth didn't wreck him. He had a tire go down.
Okay. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, though.
Civil came off.
The closest that I've seen anything happen like that was Chase Elliott holding up Kevin Harvick last year at Bristol, and even then, Harvick could have put the bumper to Elliott. I felt, and I think he should have. But you don't see you see a lot of talk, but not a lot of retaliation towards anything. I mean, people were saying Ross Chastain has another one coming. I forget who it was. Ross Chastain ran into someone, I think, here during the race. I forget who offhand. But he said,
I don't know.
Christopher Bell and Daniel Suarez ran into each other.
It might have been Bell and Suarez said he's got one coming.
Suarez did say he was going to pay him back.
Yeah, Suarez did say something about Bell.
Because he did try to pay him back under caution at 1.2. Suarez did run into the back of Bell.
Why pay somebody back under caution, though? You're not doing anything.
He just ran into the back of him.
I think it's all for sure.
I bumped Austin under caution, but no, I freaking straight up tried to demolish a car after the race. That's completely different.
But here's the thing, and here's what I'm trying to go at here, is that all these drivers saying you got one coming to you, until I see someone actually blatantly wreck someone and not for a win, you don't have you're just all talk. Your bark's worse than your bite. That is where I'm going at with this. I've never seen that. I mean, who here after Kenseth Logano incident at Martinsville heard a driver say he's got one coming and never paid him back? Take all the time you want.
Well, other than maybe Hamlin just trying to hold somebody up, that's about it.
No. I'm not talking about holding someone up like Hamlin did to someone or Elliott did to Harvick last year. I'm talking about if Charlie and I had a problem, instead of me going, oh, well, he's got one coming, me going to the track the next weekend and wrecking him.
You get your ass whooped in pits.
No, I wouldn't. First of all, you have a limp arm. So you're one arm done. Paul.
We'd have surgery on it again, is all I know.
Second of all, I mean, I'm being serious here. I mean, have you guys ever seen anything? I haven't seen one thing since.
No, I got to agree with you. I haven't seen anything.
There's nothing. All these drivers, Harvick, Logano, it doesn't matter who it is, are their bark's worse than their bike. If I heard a driver say that to me, especially like a Suarez, I'd be like, whatever, you're not going to do a thing. It's just all WWF talk. It's promos. It's for the hype for the next race or the next round. These guys aren't going to do a thing. Point. They're not going to do a thing because it's so polished these days that heaven forbid you piss off your sponsor to the point where it's like, oh, we didn't realize that. And then the culture we live in right now, the cancel culture, you can't really say what you believe in.
I guess Harvick needs to be careful about himself talking about the car.
Daniel can because he's Mexican.
No, you can't. I mean, not one driver can back up what they say. Oh, I guarantee you this season, Suarez is not going to touch Bell. I guarantee you Hamlin's not going to touch Chastain. It's hyped up by NASCAR, by the broadcasters, whomever it is. It's hyped up for eyes to be glued to it because it could happen, but it's not going to happen. Guarantee you. So all that smoke and mirrors that Suarez threw up, I'm not going to buy it.
I'll be sure to remember that now, and we'll have to wait and see what happens next week then. Because if it does happen,
I was about to say,
it won't happen.
It won't happen. Sitting right in the wall.
It won't happen. No, it wouldn't happen next week.
But see, there's the thing. When will it happen? Will it happen? Oh, at the final round, we'll make sure you don't get advantage.
Tune in next week to find out.
Tune in next week to find out. I'll believe it when I see it. 100%. It's just crap to me. It's just WWE crap to just building up.
I feel like they mean to do it.
No, they don't.
I feel like they want to do it, like they want to retaliate, and then they get in the car and they're like, okay, I got a good car, a decent car. And
I got to be careful because you don't know how you can really.
Never mind, it's screwed.
Yeah, you don't know how you can pay him back.
You go from a good car to a bad car.
Exactly.
Or what if something like this happens? Say Preston and I have a problem on the track, and Preston says, I owe you one. It's like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively take him out to prevent me from being taken out.
I'll just slam on the brakes when I see you behind me.
Well, you first of all, if anybody's behind someone, you're going to be behind me.
Those are some pretty big talking words there.
And we go to like an indoor go-kart track or something like that one day.
Charlie's going to get hurt again.
I will send it, son.
No, he won't. He won't make it 2 laps. Chain will come off.
Oh no! But no, that's just kind of my soapbox right there. I feel like all these drivers could talk a bunch of smack, and you never really heard that from the old school guys. We'll take Earnhardt for instance. He never said, "Oh, he's got one coming." He just wrecked you.
That's true.
He wouldn't give you a heads up.
He wouldn't call the shot. He would just do it.
That's true.
Drivers like Hamlin and Suarez and I owe him one. And be like, man, if your balls were just a little bigger, I'd believe it. But I don't believe you. I don't believe anybody who says I owe you one. Yeah,
like ball bearings.
Because look at this. Kenseth didn't, to my knowledge, to my recollection, Kenseth, after he was wrecked at Kansas by Logano, didn't come up and say, "Oh yeah, I owe him one." No, he just straight up wrecked him at Martinsville. He went out there for the sole purpose to wreck him.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just me. That's just a soapbox here. But interesting race. 2 honorable mentions here. First of all, Michael McDowell, Preston's driver, finishing 6th. Great run.
He had a great run almost all night. I mean, I was kind of, I wouldn't say shocked, but I mean, he handled himself very well.
I was very shocked about that one, Preston.
Yeah, he had a pretty decent run.
He had a good speed.
And the second one, and I'm kind of curious about your guys' take on this. Bubba Wallace up in the top 10 all night, finishing 9th.
Yeah, I said
in the 45 car, not the 23, the 45 for owners.
Well, 45, 23, you're still going to set it up how the driver wants it. So
I get that, but it was a good run for both of those teams, especially Michael McDowell. I'm glad he's been running so consistently this year. I wish it would have been regular point state.
Well, I also think that's if he'll focus on racing rather than trying to be the center of the media and staying in the spotlight, he'll probably run a little bit better.
I take it you're talking about Bubba Wallace and not Michael.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about Bubba Wallace.
Okay, I didn't think you were talking about Michael McDowell either.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that's the way it should be. But going into this week's race here at the Kansas Motor Speedway, we got a very interesting shakeup in the points. Below the cut line right now, Cindric, Dillon, Briscoe, and surprisingly enough, Kevin Harvick. Elliott dropped from 1st all the way down to 9th. With Logano taking the top spot here going into Kansas with nobody locked into the second round. And we'll get into our race predictions here right now before we get into the Netherlands Grand Prix there for Formula One. What was everybody's take on that? And what does Cindric, Dillon, Briscoe, and Harvick need to do to get themselves out of this hole and get set up for Kansas, Bristol, and then the start of the second round there at Texas?
I think Kansas is just a whole different animal in general. So I think the guys that you saw struggle this past week and wreck out early, Chase Elliott in particular, Harvick, had the fire issue. I think you'll see both of those up front at Kansas this weekend. So, yes, Elliott dropped a lot of points this weekend. I think you'll see him make those up this coming weekend. Harvick will dig himself out of that last position this coming weekend as well. And I think you'll see – honestly, I think the 4 that I thought was going to be at the bottom, like Suarez, Briscoe, who else was I? Bowman. I think after this coming weekend, you'll see them kind of trickle back down towards the bottom, towards the cutoff line, solely because you've seen so many heavy hitters of just weird stuff fall out of Darlington. And I think after Kansas, you'll see them kind of make their way back in the top 12 or whatever. And those people that we thought were probably going to get cut after the first round kind of fall back towards the bottom of the points.
All right, what is everybody else?
The only reason, kind of like Charlie said, I think Harvick would dig himself out, but as far as like Cindric, Bowman, Suarez, Dillon, I think they'll just keep on trickling down. Or we might see some more failures. Engine blowing, belts get knocked off, cars on fire. I hope that's not the case. I hope they got it figured out. I know Charlie said something about he's going to bring up when they fix the fire situation, but as far as engine failure, I hope they figured it out. And I mean, it's a heck of a way to lose a race is under pace laps, let your engine let go.
Yeah, and I feel like Harvick has the best chance of pulling himself out of this hole.
Yeah.
Suarez is definitely in the most danger, I feel. But with these current playoffs right now and the points the way they're set up, where one position equals 1 point, it could be just completely flipped. We could see Logano have problems and then drop himself all the way down into that cutoff line and into going into Bristol needing a win or needing to finish better than anybody else. I wouldn't say anybody right now is in it. That's in the bubble right now needs to win and they're in. I think they're far enough back, not far enough back. I mean, Harvick's only 13 back from the cut line. He's got a chance to rebound at Kansas. And then when he gets to Bristol, he runs well at Bristol. He's won there before. He could do well there and secure himself into the next round of the playoffs. He doesn't necessarily need a win. But we'll just have to wait and see. Preston, what do you think?
I pretty much completely agree with everybody. I think Harvick will be the one to dig himself out. Cindric, Dillon, Briscoe, I think those three right there, I think I had falling out in the first round anyways. I think Harvick digs himself out, but Daniel Suarez, he may fall down there too. I mean, you have to look how Busch is right there too. He's only 8 points above cut line, but I think he digs himself out as well. So it might be Suarez taking that tumble, but who knows? And who really knows?
Yeah,
anybody. Yeah.
Kyle's had fast cars all year. He has just been caught up in some crap situations towards the end of every race. Other than that, I think Kyle would have, just as many wins as Elliott or something like that by now. So, like I say, he's definitely I know everybody says Bill is probably the fastest Gibbs car or the most consistent, and he might be the most consistent, but that's just for the sheer fact of that Busch has been knocked out of a bunch of races just by being involved in other people's crap. But I think Busch has really had probably the fastest car in a lot of these races.
I think it'll be interesting to see, especially with Bristol coming up here. I think Bristol's going to be a fun race to watch. Before we get into our weekend schedule here, talking about the Formula One race there at the Netherlands. Preston, I know you are on your way up to the Darlington Motor Speedway to watch that race, so you didn't really get a chance to watch the Netherlands. Did anybody else watch the Grand Prix from the Netherlands?
I didn't get to, buddy. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It was a good race. It was one of those races where Verstappen was in the lead, but Mercedes set him up. And forgive me if I did say this wrong, Preston. I believe they set him up for the undercut, right? Where
they pitted him early.
Where you pit him early and then you catch him in the pit road, and then all of a sudden
you send him out on fresher tires to get the faster speed and hope that they're waiting too long. Yeah, they set him up for an undercut.
So, and Mercedes was set up for a undercut, but then you had issues with a couple cars here. I mean, Takuma Sato more so, thinking he had a tire issue.
Sonoda?
No, Takuma Sato. Oh my God! Did I say Takuma Sato?
Yeah, you did.
No. He used to race in Formula One, and I saw him get his only Formula One podium there at Indianapolis. So, whoopsie doodles.
And with this, we'll be right back from a 30-second station.
Do we have to limit your alcohol intake again?
Dude, this is like my second.
Caroline!
All right, get out of here. Get out of here. But yeah, oh crap. What was his name again, Preston?
Sonoda. Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki Tsunoda, who is from Japan.
Yes. What gave that away?
Yuki Tsunoda thought he had a tire issue. He thought he didn't have a tire issue put on the tire put on the car. So he stopped, which brought out the virtual safety car. And then he came back in. It seemed like it was issues with the belts, but then he had another problem. It's just they couldn't figure out what was wrong with the car. Either Tsunoda had felt something or the team did something wrong. Doesn't matter. It brought out a full safety car. Mercedes was in the front, but Verstappen pitted again for fresher tires. And it was just like last year's finale for the Formula One season. On the first lap of the first turn, Hamilton couldn't hold off Verstappen. Verstappen passed him and went on to win. And Hamilton was not happy with his team in that decision to put on those particular tires. I believe it was the hard tires. He wanted the softer tire or to pit sooner. And he gets mad at the team again. And this is a constant trend with Lewis Hamilton. If he doesn't do well,
it's somebody else's fault.
He blames the team. And I just want to get your thought on that, Preston, real quick.
They always blame the team. Drivers are always blaming teams constantly. I mean, it's.
Whoa! I'm gonna stop you right there.
I'm just saying,
because in my line of work, typically, I pretty much set the car up, and everything is pretty much how I want it. And how everything. So if I go out on a track, it's because I said it and everything's how I want it before we line up to go out on the track. So if something's wrong, it's Charlie's fault. It ain't nobody else's fault.
So Charlie,
I'm talking about Hamilton right now.
So before we start throwing, drivers always blame somebody else.
Well, I mean, that's what it does kind of work out like that in Formula One, honestly.
No, you said drivers, which implies all drivers always blame somebody.
All professional drivers.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a shirt that said professional. I had one that says famous. Now, I will get one that says professional racing driver, and I won't put a line through it.
No, but
anyway, carry on, Preston.
We've seen this from Lewis Hamilton before, and he just whenever he does what doesn't do well, he blames the team. Whenever he does well, oh, thank you guys are the best. It
happens quite a bit.
You can't have it one way, one race, and have it the other way the next race, and expect your team to respect you in any shape, form, or fashion.
You can obviously almost say that, like with Ferrari, for example, and Carlos Sainz is always. Seems like he's questioning the strategy that is called and what he's relayed and thinking, we probably shouldn't do that,
Yeah, but at the same time, that's not your job. Your job is to drive the car no matter what.
It's probably just heat of the moment. Probably just blaming the team, heat of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah,
it happens.
Probably not smart.
It doesn't matter if it's heat. In my opinion, my semi-professional driving career opinion, it doesn't matter. I mean, heat of the moment or not, you can't, especially in a top tier level like that. You just can't be lashing out at a team like that and turn right around and expect them to respect you in the same manner the very next race. Like, all you're doing is digging yourself a hole. Absolutely. So you expect them to function the same way towards you as they will George Russell now? Hell no. They're going to treat George Russell a little bit. He doesn't talk to me. George Russell don't talk to me the same way Lewis Hamilton talks to me. So, Of course, I like George Russell more.
Yeah. In that case, Lewis Hamilton may just be at that point. He's thinking that they're treating George Russell as the number one driver at this point.
But that's not something you need to come over the radio and be like, y'all guys are effing me out of it. You guys effed me out of this race.
Charles Leclerc's done it already this year with Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc got the finger wag from the team principal after a race.
And you see where that's gotten Ferrari this season so far.
Well, they're just messing up in general for both drivers. So
that's not something you do in a race and stuff like that. That is something. Hey, me, George Russell. If I'm Hamilton, it's me, George Russell. Toto the dog from Wizard of Oz, and whoever else. We all need to sit down. And we all need to chit chat, and we all need to, come to some type of understanding of what's to be expected, and what's pretty much some type of agreement. I'm not saying some type of agreement, but what's to be expected if we're to be in this same situation later on, because Hamilton had the same opportunity as Verstappen did, and this was pretty much the same situation as it was the championship race last year. From what I understand, I don't know how many laps were left whenever this virtual safety car happened, but yes, softer tires are faster by all means, at least for a limited amount of time. So, yeah, if I can pit and come out ahead of everybody else, yeah, I'm putting on softer tires and still come out second. If that's how it works in Formula One. And by all means, I'm going to run the leader down, pass him, and take the lead and go on with the win. So, my opinion, whatever. So,
well, Here's the thing I'm looking at here. 7 races to go in the Formula One Championship for 2022.
I bet it's driver standings.
Max Verstappen has a 109-point lead over Charles Leclerc, who is tied with Sergio Perez in that standing. In the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull Racing has 511 points over Ferrari's 376 points with 7 races to go. And I'm going to start off with Preston on this. Can we say at this point, or is it too early to tell? I think it's pretty safe to say at this point, with the consistency that Red Bull's having, that there has been an official changing of the guard from Mercedes back to Red Bull this season with Max Verstappen.
A changing of the guard, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so.
Red Bull is the dominant force at this point. And Mercedes is still trying to figure out other ways to keep up with the new car that we have in Formula One.
But
you also have to look at it like this. Not only the Constructors' Championship, but if you look at the Drivers' Championship, like you were saying, Matt, Leclerc and Perez are both tied with 201 points. George Russell is 4th with 188 points. You can't tell me that Mercedes may be favoring trying to get Russell up in that mix to maybe shoot for second place, because Verstappen's clear ahead at 310 points.
Yeah, where's Hamilton at?
Hamilton sits 6th with 158.
Yeah, so why not try to get Russell at least the second place in the driver's standings?
And I'm not saying Red Bull has it locked up in the bag right now. Go ahead and start popping the champagne bottles.
Right.
Absolutely not.
7 races to go. A lot can happen in 7 races. A lot. Last year, it came back and forth, all the way to the final race there at Abu Dhabi. I don't foresee it this year. I feel like maybe Mexico or Brazil, the Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' Championship, will be locked up for Formula One, which is kind of a bummer, because I like it going down to the final race, who has the mathematical chance of winning, and all the strategy that goes into that. But as of right now, I feel like round 20 or 21, Red Bull is going to get crowned the Constructors' Championship, taking that top podium away from Mercedes. And either one of those 2 rounds, unless anything crazy happens, these final 7 races, Max Verstappen is going to be hoisting the championship trophy and just showing up for another trophy there at Abu Dhabi. Call it like right now. Call it like I see it right now.
Yeah, I mean, the man's on fire right now. So it's hard to slow a man down when he's got so much momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Formula One was a good race this weekend. Can't wait to see what happens this weekend at the Italian Grand Prix, which will be Sunday, September 11th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN.
That's in my hometown.
The Indy Car race will be the Firestone Grand Prix of Monterey in Canada, Sunday, September 11th at 12 p.m. Sunday, September 11th.
Today, Junior.
Hey, man, I'm going to mute you. Every time with that joke. You do this job. I want to see you do this job just as well as me. Sunday, September 11th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NBC. All three series, I believe, right here. Let me just check the schedule here for the truck series. Yeah, all three series will be back in action at the Kansas Motor Speedway for the truck series Friday, September 9th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. The Xfinity Series race will be Saturday, September 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on USA. And the Cup race, the second round of the playoffs here from the Kansas Motor Speedway will start at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on USA. Gentlemen, winners for the Truck Xfinity Cup race, as well as the Formula One race and the Indy Car race. We're going to start off with Preston.
Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. All right, well, I'll run through NASCAR real quick then. Truck Series, John Henry Nemechek. Xfinity Series, oof. I'll say Noah Gragson again. Why not? I like Noah Gragson. As far as Cup Series goes, Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch gets it done at Kansas. He's done it previously. Formula One. I really want to say Max Verstappen, but I don't like to just.
I'm like you. I kind of want to pick against him just to see if somebody else wins.
Just to make the series more interesting.
Yeah, we all know who Austin's going to pick.
You know what? I think Ferrari figures out their problems this weekend. Charles Leclerc.
Okay.
Hey, maybe they figure it out for once. Maybe they don't screw their drivers over. I don't know. IndyCar. Marcus Ericsson. I like Marcus Ericsson.
Yeah, Marcus Ericsson's good. What? Okay, who's next here? You guys want me to go next?
Go ahead.
Ty Majeski for the trucks. Allgaier for the Xfinity Series. Larson for the Cup Series. Instead of Leclerc, Carlos Sainz. Joseph Newgarden for IndyCar.
I know. He got your pick too, didn't he? I mean, right off the bat, Majeski,
he got mine. Well, he didn't necessarily get mine. I was back and forth between Newgarden and somebody else.
The IndyCar Championship is going to come down to the wire. This is the final race. It's going to be a fun race. I'm definitely going to catch that one.
Go ahead, Austin.
Trucks. Lord.
I mean, you could double pick, I guess.
No, I don't like doing that. I'm gonna go with Chandler Smith.
All right.
Xfinity, Allgaier. Cup Series, I'm gonna say Kevin Harvick gets it done. Dig himself way out of the hole, lock himself into the next round. F1, as you guessed it, Verstappen. And then IndyCar, let's see. Hold on, I don't know.
Willpower. Say willpower.
Willpower.
Okay, that's a good pick. That was my alternative pick.
All right, so my IndyCar is going to be Scott McLaughlin. Goes back to back. He's going to ride a little bit of momentum after winning this past weekend. And F1, we just talked about it. Being that Mercedes is going to help him. Russell gets it done because Mercedes is showing a little bit more speed than they were, beginning and midway through the season there. So Truck Series, Enfinger. Josh Berry in the Xfinity. And then the Cup Series. Man, who did I write down on my paper to win this round? I think I put Logano wins this race, so I'm gonna go with Logano wins this race.
All right, I like that pick. I like Logano with Kansas. I'd say that's probably the most solid pick. Logano runs well at Kansas to me, gentlemen. Anything else before we get into our final thoughts here and wrap up this week's episode?
So yeah, my thing on son of a gun, stupid. My thing on the fire thing real quick. So NASCAR has made a mandatory rule change. The lower front section of the right side backstop panel must be trimmed. This section is removed. The section that is removed must be replaced by 14 gauge stainless steel panel. The steel panel must be mounted inboard of the polymer panel. Files for the stainless steel panel and the trim version of the polymer panel are attached. The trim line for the polymer panel is 1 inch below the fastener center line as shown below. This is to, I guess, help keep debris from, I assume, reaching the headers and stuff like that. So
be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, because Kansas is also one of those tracks that they're going to be running a high line a lot.
Yeah.
Which is where all the debris washes up. So we'll see.
We shall see. We haven't seen much fire. I mean, this is the first time this has happened.
Yeah, that really was. We've seen fire. We've seen some electrical fires, but that was the most strange of the fires that we've seen, really and truly.
It's been a while since I've seen a car on fire, and that was the first time in a while that I've seen that. It is what it is. I think NASCAR is on top of it. It just throw the caution sooner for the safety of the driver. But gentlemen,
absolutely.
Anything else before we get going here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
White flag, white flag. White flag, white flag. White flag. 1 lap to go. 1 lap right here.
Final thoughts this week on this episode of Ramblin' About Racing. If you stayed along this long, really do appreciate it. Whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch live, really do appreciate you. Or if you're joining us back there, not catching us live, or if you're on your regular podcast platform or B.U.R.N.S Radio, just a little heads up here. I forgot to mention this at the top of the show. We had a little issue with our Ramblin' About Racing website. It has now been resolved. You can now go there as much as you want to look at past episodes and links to all of our social media accounts. So if you tried to go there for maybe our store or especially our anybody but line there at Bonfire, it has been fixed. Really do apologize for that. That was a mess up on my part, the administration's part when it comes to that. So sorry about that. Now we get into our final thoughts this week in NASCAR and our fantasy standings for Ramblin' About Racing's Fantasy League hosted by NASCAR.com. And I told you guys before the race, darn it, I forgot to set my lineup. So I wouldn't be surprised if I dropped in standings.
Well,
I might have gotten lucky.
Let's go ahead and do this week in NASCAR because I have a question for Preston as well. So,
oh Lord,
you know what I used to do with Preston all the time? It was so funny. I love doing this. I want to get back to doing this. I just never had the opportunity. It's easier when Preston's in the studio. When I would read off a stat or something, I would say pop quiz. And every time he'd just go back and listen to our previous episodes and try to find it. He would just, oh no. There was this one episode. I forget. I was listening to it earlier this week. And I can't think of it offhand, but it was when we were called In the Marbles. And I think it was our Formula One preview or something about Formula One. and I just said pop quiz, and I kept rambling off all these statistics. I think it was Formula One 70th year last year. And so I researched all this stuff, and I read to him what are the top, who won the most poles, who's won the most races at the time. And it was funny. Go back and listen to it. Links will be in the podcast description. Let's just say that. Okay, this week in NASCAR, we go back to September 17th, 1978. Bobby Allison bags his third win of the season in the Delaware 500 at Dover. Privateer J.D. McDuffie wins the pole and leads the opening 10 laps, but departs with an engine failure after lap 80. That was September 17th, 1978. For your This Week in NASCAR. And go ahead, Charlie, with the question for Preston.
All right. So it's about our fantasy. And I know that, Preston was talking about he was catching me in fantasy standings and stuff like that. Preston, pull up your fantasy.
I'm looking right at it.
How many playoff drivers did you play this past week?
Let's see. My entire lineup was playoff drivers. Yep, it didn't go the way. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I already know. I knew this was coming.
Yeah, I just wondered. I only played 2 playoff drivers in my lineup. So I've been pretty conservative all year as far as my picks. It's played off so far, and I'm still holding the lead. So
bold move, Cotton.
It is very much so. I actually took Logano out of my lineup and sent him to my garage.
I think Hamlin was in my garage.
Which brings us to our current lineup standings. Once again, 7th and above. 7th is Matt, but he didn't set his lineup, is 4,227 points. 6th is SMR R&D, is 4,608 points. 5th is S Blades, 4,610. 4th is Super Sumo 32, is 4,626 points. 2nd is Matt Camper, 4,627 points. Tied at 2nd is SMR Operations at 4,627 points. And still sitting first is myself at 4,969 points.
Okay. Just a heads up, I set my lineup right now for Kansas. So whatsoever. Made it right now.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not even going to tell anybody it because you don't want to use mine, obviously, because I'm not doing so hot.
Right. Mainly because you have forgotten to set your lineup multiple times this year.
This weekend has been busy, and I think Austin will experience it here soon once the babies come home. You're going to lose track of stuff.
Yours wasn't even because of baby.
Yeah, it wasn't. Wasn't even the baby wasn't even in the same state.
Sure wasn't.
So, oh well. But gentlemen, that was our show. Really do appreciate everybody showing up. Sorry again for the website issue, and sorry about not posting anything about last week's episode on social media. Go check it out. That was for our playoff brackets. Surprisingly enough, I don't even receive one playoff bracket. It seems like just the 4 of us are in the drawing for the Ramblin' About Racing t-shirt as well as the pint glass gear.
I just want a pint glass.
Okay, fair enough. But I will do this. I will. It just kind of hit me. I should bring all my podcast equipment to Talladega. And while we're sitting in the circle just talking about racing, I should just hit record and see what happens.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
It's a bold move.
I'll bring my mic. I'll bring the mic and all that kind of stuff.
Everybody brings everything. Preston, I got a question for you. Do you want to come to Talladega with us?
Whoa, now I ain't out of the question yet. Now.
No, I'm not. You can still come. You can still come there, Austin. Austin.
Jeez.
Wow, you forgot your name. Not only did he uninvite you, he forgot your name.
First of all, I didn't uninvite Austin.
You got a
Austin,
free ticket paid for with your name on it.
I want Austin. I want everybody to show up, but I think with Preston there, it would just be so much more fun having the whole crew there.
I can call and see if they still have another spot.
Preston,
like another seat around where we are.
He could just get a ticket and then just come up there. Preston, you coming to Talladega with us?
I am not.
I know. I tell you what. I'll make an even sweeter deal for you. I'll pick you up and you could ride with me all the way down there.
It's tempting, but no.
And if we can't find you a seat, you can just sit in Matt's lap for the race.
Yeah, you can just sit in my lap. Like this is my son.
He'll even bounce his leg and hold you.
Yeah, I'll just do.
How you doing?
Don't fall down.
Oh no, I dropped Preston. Not good. Okay, Preston, I tell you what, you think about it.
Okay.
Okay, that's a no.
I promise you, if we all go, you won't regret it.
You won't regret it.
I've already practiced throwing beads.
With his one damn arm.
I tried to practice signing babies' foreheads, but the doctor wouldn't let me sign my kid's forehead last week. So
how are you going to tell them apart?
I know, but chicken eggs.
Well, gentlemen, that was our show. Anything else before we wrap it up here on this week?
Draw a circle on one and an X on the other. One was going to be tick and the other toe. Or the other tick and tack.
Yeah, I thought it was tack. Whatever. But gentlemen, anything else before we wrap it up here? Thanks for showing up here. I know it was a late episode, but episode will be out Thursday. Should be a fun episode for everybody to listen to. Anything else?
Nah, I'm good, buddy.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up on this week's episode of Ramblin' About Racing. Thank you so much for tuning into this week, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter live. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to go back and check out those episodes if you want to watch the video version of the podcast. And thank you for listening on your regular podcast platform, B.U.R.N.S Radio. Really do appreciate that. Make sure to head over to ramblinaboutracing.com to links to all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, you name it, we're there. And if we're not there, go ahead and tell us about the new platform. We'll sign up for that as well. I'd like to thank our partners for the show, Stand Up to Cancer and Fanatics, for all they do, not only for B.U.R.N.S Radio, but for Ramblin' About Racing as well. For Charlie Hercus, Chuck 8384, Austin Reeves, Austin_Reeves 6, Preston Lood, P_Luda. I'm Matt Beamer, MBeamer22 on Twitter. Stay safe and have a good rest of the week.